Hey friends, so welcome back to Dave Burgess Consulting Inc. Live. We are super excited that you decided to tune in with us today. I know Dave and I were just on here testing everything out. We have some super duper special guests today, and I cannot wait for them to share so many amazing things about their brand new book that released today, the Esports Playbook for Education. I think you guys are just going to be in awe of the awesomeness that is contained in this book. So this is your chance to meet the authors, talk to them, ask questions, comment over in the side. Remember, every single comment that's left over in the side is entered to win a free DVC book of choice. So the more comments you put over there, the better chance it is for you to win. And if you have questions for these friends, lay it on us. We're ready for it. But before I go into that too much longer, I do want to introduce our very special guest. So we have 4 amazing co-authors of this brand new book. And we have Steve, Jesse, Christine, and Chris. And so I'm going to let each of them tell you a little bit about them, who they are, where they're from, what they do. And as they're sharing who they are, where they're from, and what they do, please over in the comments share who you are, where you're from, and what you do. So that will get us going for the comments. It'll also get us going for the intros. So Steve, why don't you start us out, and please do share who you are, what you do, and tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So thanks for having us, Tara. My name is Steve Isaacs. I teach game design and development at William Adden Middle School and Ridge High School in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. I've been teaching for 28 years and love what I do. I mean, it's been great. I've been able to kind of create my own program. And with that, you know, we've gotten into esports over the last number of years. And Chris and I were able to play each other in Rocket League a couple of years ago as the first middle school Rocket League match, and that got us on quite a run. And since then, we've been real involved in the esports EDU community. I don't know if you know, but we wrote a book together with Jesse and Christine, and Chris and I also founded Garden State Esports, which is the New Jersey affiliate for NASEF.
Super cool. So Jesse, why don't you continue on? Now that we know a little bit about Chris, let's learn a little bit about you, Jesse.
Sure. I'm Jesse Lubinski. I'm the Chief Learning Officer for Ready Learner One. I've been in education for nearly 2 decades, about half as a classroom teacher and half as a director of technology and innovation. And Christine and I were actually co-authors with Micah Shippey on Reality Bites, which is over my shoulder earlier this year. And we had planned this esports project as a follow-up, and this story is actually in the book, so I don't want to ruin the whole thing for it. But it's like the Brady Bunch. We then got together with Steve and Chris, and it just kind of worked out perfectly that the knowledge we had and the knowledge they had just kind of really fit well, and it's been such a great experience working with them.
Super fun. Super fun. So I think we might have lost Christine just for a second. Oh, there she is. We're going to move on to Chris, and then we'll let Christine introduce herself as well.
Yeah, hi, my name is Chris Aviles. I teach at the Fairhaven School District here in New Jersey. 3 years ago, I started the first middle school esports team in the country after being involved myself in esports since like 1998. The first middle school we played was my good friend Steve Isaacs, who I rang up and asked him to put together a team. And ever since, we've been on this crazy ride spreading esports to education to anybody who's interested. And so part of that experience, like Steve said, is we founded Garden State Esports, which is our nonprofit, whose goal is to spread esports to every school in New Jersey. And we'll even help, non-New Jersey people, because not everybody's perfect. But then also knowing Jesse and Christine and knowing that they were interested in writing a book about esports, it kind of all worked out. We knocked it out together, and we're really proud of the product we put out.
Okay, Christine, we saved the best for last. So, I mean, we've got to stick together.
So you might beg to differ now. So I'm Christine Lane Bailey. I am also from New Jersey. I'm actually a director of technology and innovation and an elementary school principal for the Morris Plains School District in New Jersey. And I'm the chief strategy officer at Ready Learner One, along with Jesse. And I know he already mentioned Reality Bites. And so, yeah, I'm super passionate about what esports can do for kids. And, Steve and Chris are such a blessing in terms of where we've come with this book. And we're just really excited to change the world.
Well, we are excited too. Our company, DBC Inc. family, is just so excited to welcome a couple more. I mean, I know we had Jesse and Christine already in the family, but to have Chris and everybody on the, I'm sorry, Chris and Steve in the family as well. Sorry, I'm like reading comments, saying names all at the same time. Don't want to say the wrong name. In the family as well. So, you know, a lot of people are saying, I want to learn more. I see a lot of comments like, this is all the rage. Esports is all the rage. I really want to learn more. So what, I know the two of you, Steve and Chris, you talked about already starting this in the middle schools, starting this with your students. So what caused you all to want to write this book? And then what are you kind of hoping the readers are going to gain from it? Let's just answer, I don't know if we can answer both those questions at the same time, or maybe break it up. What caused you to want to write this book in the onset? So we'll go back. We'll start with Christine this time and work our way backwards.
Sure. So I know personally, in terms of esports, you know, it's not a secret, I'm not a gamer. I think I'm the only one out of the four of us who, you know, isn't really super savvy when it comes to games, but I am really passionate about kids. And there's so much opportunity to engage kids in ways that a lot of people don't really know how to connect gaming with connecting students in the learning environment and also beyond the learning environment. So I knew that was a passion of mine, more the social and emotional learning side of things. And so when the opportunity arose to work with experts like Chris and Steve when it comes to actually running teams, and Jesse with his expertise about education and students and learning, when you combine the four of us, we brought together quite a powerhouse of concept knowledge that we can combine into the book, which was really fantastic. So sort of my interest in the topic.
Yeah, I love it. I love too, like all the different perspectives, because I think that's really important to making a final product in anything, right? It's just great to have all the different perspectives. So Chris, enlighten us on your firsthand experience with this with kids.
Yeah, so for me, having been involved in esports for a while, but I also have a foot in traditional sports. You know, as a high school and college athlete, and I've coached varsity sports here in New Jersey for about 12 years. And I remember going to my first big esports match thinking that I have students in my class that would love this, right? They would benefit from, traditional competition and being, that sense of belonging you get from being part of a team. But for whatever reason, they just didn't enjoy traditional sports, right? A lot of students are maybe undersized, or you see with esports draws out typically underserved kids, maybe IEP 504, or a lot of students with autism. And so taking something like esports, if you're not familiar with it, is just competitive video game playing. Taking that and having that substitute a more traditional athletic experience, it really gives the same benefits to kids as traditional athletics. But again, it draws in a kid who maybe doesn't have or want to play a traditional sport. So for me, it was a way, again, to build what we call the homeschool connection, right? We know that kids who are involved in extracurricular activities and kids who have a role model, like Steve as an esports coach, generally do better in school, right? Overall, they report happiness and have better grades. So for me, esports started as a way to bring what I love about traditional sports to students who maybe didn't have or couldn't get that traditional sports experience. And from there, we just wrapped it up and have done some really cool stuff with it.
I love the inclusion piece. That is so huge, so important. And I love that piece so much. So thank you for sharing that piece as well. All right, so we'll jump up to the top. Jesse, you're next. Why?
Sure. So, there's so many different ways to go about it. So I would say that one of the things that was unique was, as we had four of us working on the book, we each kind of fell into different roles and niches based on our expertise. And I had the honor and privilege to go interview numerous people out in the field who are both in the esports space as well as the education space, and share their stories through our book. And I think my biggest takeaway, and the thing I always tell people when I talk about the book, is we as educators all want what's best for kids, and we want to provide them with those opportunities to feel like they belong to something. And look, Jim O'Hagan just joined.
There you go.
The educators in our whose stories we got to share. So Jim actually wrote the foreword for our book, and it's actually such an incredible, inspiring way to start the book. We had our good friend Mike Washburn do a little history of esports. But I think the biggest lesson we took away from all these different stories that we could share with people was that students who previously felt like they had no place in their school now found one through which would typically be dismissed as, just video games in school. And I think people forever have had that attitude, that dismissive attitude about it. And we really felt like it was our mission to show not only is this something you should be doing, but you're almost irresponsible if you're not viewing this as an opportunity for your students to provide them with a space in their school for inclusion and to foster success.
I love that. I mean, that's how I got connected on Twitter. That's basically the same message I heard. Like, if you're not a connected educator, shame on you. And I was just like, oh wow, I should do it. But I think that's the way with students. We have to connect with what is of interest to them. And if we're missing some, then we're missing them. Like, we can't miss any. Like, we got to take them all with us. We got to engage all of them. And so I think that is so important. So Steve, last but not least, you get to be the best for last now this time.
Best for last. So, kind of along the lines of what Chris was saying, I was not that stellar. I mean, I was not the stellar athlete. I was not the sports coach in school and whatnot, but I definitely was the gamer that liked to find opportunities to share in my passion and find other like-minded people to play games with and all. So that's kind of the start of my whole story with kids and creating affinity spaces for kids, and right along with what Jesse and Chris said and Christine about SEL and inclusion. It's kind of a natural fit. Like, I didn't come into it saying I'm going to do something to support social emotional learning, but it was more like, I know, kind of like Jesse said, what's good for kids and what's going to bring kids together and all that. But then another thing that, as I watched the chat, I'm deeply touched because so many of our good friends are here in the chat right now. And this community is really what this book is all about. And it's about a lot of the people in this chat that either contributed to the book or inspired us or have been along for this ride. And it just, when Jesse and Christine reached out to say, hey, would you guys be interested in writing this book with us? I mean, it just made so much sense, and the timing was so right, I think. So, I'm just excited. I really want to thank everybody. It really makes me smile when I see all these people in this chat right now. So thanks.
It's such a beautiful thing. I think that's why we call it a book birthday celebration. We get all our friends together and get to celebrate an accomplishment. And like you said, I think just a lot of being connected as an educator comes, and the community is so rich. I know right now ISTE has just launched the live conference, and I know you guys are a part of that. So some of our friends in there are going to be watching this on the playback when they're not presenting or working at this time. So super excited to hear the comments on the playbacks as well. So you guys have told us a little bit about your passion for writing the book and what kind of drew you into that. And I love that Mr. O'Hagan has talked a little bit about it esports becoming an equity issue and helping students to find this niche, this thing that they're good at, and learning through the process. So I'm curious, what is it that you're hoping the readers will gain from reading the book? And maybe if there's a favorite part, or if there's a little sneak piece that you would share or remind them that, maybe if you're feeling like this book is going to help you overcome this fear of trying this with your students. Any of those questions are open for discussion. So this time we'll start in the middle. I'm gonna let Jesse start out. What is it, Jesse, that you're really hoping the readers would gain from your new esports book?
I think we've already touched on it a little bit in terms of the SEL opportunities and benefits for students, and again, as Jim talked about, the opportunities for the equity inclusion. What I would say, though, and I think, it's interesting, the book is really divided up into 4 parts, and it's interesting because in my head I identify a part of the book with each of the 4 of us, just in terms of our areas of expertise. But one thing that we wanted to do was kind of make this a one-stop shopping for esports in general. So if you have no idea what esports is, this is the book for you. If you already have a program but are looking to enhance it, this is the book for you. If you are looking, you already have a program, you're looking to start one from scratch or whatever, no matter where you are in the esports continuum, this book is going to have something for you. We really wanted to go at this from our experience in terms of the conversations we've heard people having over time around, like, well, we can't do esports because of violence in gaming, or because of too much screen time, or because of all these things. And we actually have an entire chapter dedicated to doing counterpoints for all that different things. So we went out and did the research. And look, we're not telling you we know all the answers, but we can tell you that we've done the research, and here's what the research shows. Chris has done a ton of work around SEL involvement with, and building curriculum to support kids, their social emotional learning through esports. There's a whole chapter dedicated to that. Christine and I, through our lens of administration, went and basically can map out who are the stakeholders in your district, who you have to talk to, what are the conversations you need to have, how you create buy-in. And then finally, once you're there, great, I have this club. What do? I have this team. Well, all of that's there as well. So we really tried to create something that could be accessible to anyone, regardless of their experience and interest level in esports.
I love that. So, Christine, you want to go next?
I just want to add something. I want to piggyback on something that Jesse was saying. So I think it's also important. I was talking to a mom last week of a middle school boy who's obsessed with video games, and his school doesn't have any sports program. His town doesn't have one. And so I think it's important also that the book is written for educators, but parents can really benefit from reading the book because it gives a whole different perspective on what those games represent and how you can use those games as a bridge to your own child, even if your school or your town or that child's social world doesn't offer an actual esports team. It's something that you as a parent may want to lobby for, or you can, sort of take that approach when it comes to communicating with your child about what they're doing in their gaming world. So it was really, I think it's really important to note that it's such a beneficial read for parents as well. And she was super excited to get her hands on it. She's like, why don't we have an esports team? I'm like, I don't know. So, I think there's a grander audience than just educators.
Love that. Chris, how about you next? What are you hoping the readers will gain from this book that hasn't already been mentioned?
I think there's a lot to gain. I think even kind of going along with Christine, one of the best things about the book, number one, it's written for all levels. So whether you are an esports expert or you are somebody who is interested in esports or knows nothing about it, one of the things I always say is that esports, the best thing about bringing esports to your school is that it can fulfill, whatever you want it to. And so for me, when I, through Garden State Esports or even my own school board, the last thing I talk about is playing the game. I talk about how we as educators owe it to kids to use things that they love to teach them what they want to know. And that's exactly what esports has been for me. I love the competitive side of it. I'm a very competitive person. But more importantly, the ability to teach social emotional learning through esports, all the concerns that parents and boards of ed have about screen time and health and wellness and navigating digital culture can all be taught through esports. We can take gaming that, sometimes has this, this idea that kids are alone in their basement or something like that, but we can bring them together. And as esports coaches, we can give them a place to hang out with friends, grow new peer groups. We can model for them, how to win, how to lose, how to take your time. And when, I tell my kids all the time, you got to get your homework done and all this stuff. So I think that's one big takeaway from the book is that esports can help solve a lot of the concerns that people have. And I think the other thing I'm kind of excited about, again, as somebody who, comes from a traditional athletic background, is not, number one, like James O'Hagan always talks about, is redefining athletic culture and what it means to be an athlete. And James, with his beautiful blue eyes, is 100% correct that it's becoming an equity issue, where if you're not offering these programs, right, you're denying kids access to scholarships, you're denying kids access to the fastest growing industry in the world with lucrative careers. If we're serious about STEM, you got to be serious about esports. So I think that's a big thing that I want people to take away. And I think last but not least, one of the most exciting people we got to talk to is Amon Green, who is the esports coach at Lakeland University. But if that name sounds familiar, he's also the 4-time Pro Bowl running back for the Green Bay Packers. And he has been big into esports, for most of his career, even while being involved in football. And to have him echo, what a lot of these big athletes, like Gordon Hayward have been saying is that, the work and effort it takes to be a successful esports athlete rivals that you would see, of any other traditional athlete. So I'm hoping that finally settles the debate as to whether or not esports is a sport. But again, more importantly, the process of teaching SEL, career and technical education, redefining athletic culture, bringing kids together and providing them a space that is safe and inclusive to make new friends group. I mean, esports really has something in it for anybody. You know, tell us what your district cares about and we'll show you how esports can fill that role.
I love that. That's a mic drop moment right there. Just tell them what your district needs and they will tell you how it will roll. That's it. That's all you need. No, so we'll let Steve also share, but this is also wonderful and I'm loving all the comments. So keep those coming over the side. As Steve is sharing though, this will be our last share. So if you have questions for these authors, please drop those over in the comment section. I'll be scrolling through and trying to catch them. You guys are on fire tonight. So I'm trying to get all of them, but I want to make sure that your questions can potentially be answered while we have all of them on the screen right now. But thank you so much. I'm pumped up to read this book more thoroughly, not just for promoting it, like to absorb it. But I think we have just so many people over here at so many different levels of entry when it comes to esports. Some of them never tried it. Some of them work with littles. So all different audiences over here. So that's exciting as well. All right, Steve, we'll let you share. What are you hoping your readers are gaining from this brand new book of yours?
So a lot was already covered, but there's more. And you know, I noticed that Gerald Solomon is in the chat, and Gerald Solomon and Lila Bowman from NASEF contributed quite a bit to the book. But not only that, they've been sort of like mentors and you know, a guiding force for the whole esports movement. And a big part of what they contribute, and I think will come loud and clear in the book, is about the whole esports ecosystem. Chris always says it's, you know, and Mike Washburn loves to say it's not just the person pushing the buttons. And like, you know, Chris says, besides the level of intensity of, you know, like the practice and SEL and wellness, there's also roles in esports for so many other kids. So if a kid has an interest in being in that space or just around that environment, you know, kids love games. Not every kid, you know, not every kid that wants to play football is going to, you know, make it on the field. The same thing happens in esports, and we have roles like, you know, broadcasting and shoutcasting and video editing and, you know, marketing. And these are all real life skills that, you know, make up the whole club environment. So those are all important parts that I think need to come through. And also, you know, Eric mentioned something about, you know, he's talking about toxicity. And one of the things we speak of often is the importance of helping kids and, you know, for this matter, family and educators navigate digital culture. We often, one of my biggest things, and I think this comes through in the book as well, is that we often are afraid of certain conversations and things in school because we're, you know, we don't want to go there, wherever that is. I think it's important, and I've always felt it's our responsibility to go there. And in a situation like esports, we have an opportunity and a responsibility to really talk to kids, teach kids, guide kids about how to act appropriately, for one, and also how to handle difficult situations when they come their way. We believe strongly that with these esports programs and doing it right in the school environment, we can really change that culture. And one last note, because you had mentioned, Tara, about littles, and you know, our big thing, you know, Chris and I forever have been talking about building the K-12 to college pipeline, and it started out real strong in high school, and we're really advocating for middle school and elementary school as well, you know, because like traditional sports, you know, where you start with Little League and then move up the ranks, esports has all of those, you know, potential opportunities built right in. So, yeah, so basically esports is the answer to everything in education, and we're here to share that with you.
I love it. I love it. I love when you're super passionate about your topic too. So we do have a question over here. What did you leave out? Like you had to edit something. I know that with my book, there was a big, huge chunk of stuff. Like it didn't have a spot. I just wrote and wrote and wrote. But with a topic as big as esports, you know, was there a piece that you guys had to leave out? And I'll let anyone answer. I'm not calling anyone.
I feel like we were stuffing stuff in until the last minute. Like we literally kept adding in. Steve and Chris had added a bunch of pieces about what they did during remote learning and COVID. which kind of, what we found was that esports became the athletics of remote learning because that was the only sport that was continuing during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We added to Steve and Chris's conversation about the pipeline, all the different roles that students can play. And it's been mentioned in the chat. We go deep into that. And we even added a glossary for esports terms. So I feel like we were continuously adding. I'm trying to think what we subtracted.
We had to cut. There's a lot of some of the in-depth coaching nuances that we wound up taking out, which we're going to roll into a package, coming up in the future. As well as some of the curriculum pieces. Steve and I from Garden State Esports, along with Gerald and Layla and Nasif, we've been putting together SEL curriculum, career and technical education curriculum, content creation curriculum. So we took out a lot of stuff that really probably went too far into the weeds because we wanted to make sure this is something everybody can enjoy. And then, Jesse, I know you wanted to talk about how we're
Chris's point. Yeah. So
how we're packaging all the goodies.
All the stuff that didn't make the book, Chris has been working on a bunch of different curricula, plus all the curated articles that we have. We are actually, as a launch promotion, if you purchase the book on Amazon and then just submit a proof of purchase to the link I'm about to give, you will receive not one, but 2 digital resource kits full of curricula, articles, practice templates, all these different things that couldn't fit in the book, but that we have as extras to supplement the resources in the book. So that link is bit.ly/esports playbook promo.
So
bit.ly/esports playbook promo. And we've already had a ton of people today purchase the book and then submit their proof of purchase. So we'll be sending the first part out in December, and then the curriculum pack is going to come out. And Chris, Chris in particular has really opened my eyes to some areas that I never would have found connections in my head naturally to esports with health and wellness and some of those other areas. So I think providing those resources to educators are really going to help them see this is something that can fit in every classroom in every school.
That's fantastic. So be sure you have that link on the screen. You can also go find it in the comments and just click right there and join right away. So we have a few more questions. Those are great answers, by the way. So what startup activities are recommended for elementary schools? Like what is the starting grade for this? Ooh, Steve has an answer.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'm, really passionate about is giving kids opportunities to build and create and such. And Minecraft has come in terms of us being able to do a lot of these great build challenges. And that's another thing we've done in partnership with NASEF and Garden State Esports and Florida Scholastic Esports League, where we've created these opportunities that are global that people could just join in. And the nice thing is they're, kind of cooperative team events that teams are submitting their products through like Flipgrid or something. And a lot of them have been in terms of, Minecraft builds. Also, some of the games like Rocket League, Super Smash Brothers, and Minecraft. There's even a competitive Minecraft league that plays a version of like a capture the flag type game. But those are all great ways, in other words, I think part of it is about what titles are appropriate and part of it is about, creating the ways for these teams to get involved. So sometimes that even means having, in-school competitions if you're not at the point of ready to go out and, compete against other schools. But starting grades, I mean, I would say start as young as you can. I mean, T-ball is for kids in like kindergarten or whatnot, right? So let's start out there.
That's awesome. So are there opportunities for teachers to get certifications in esports?
There's some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline with NASEF, the North American Scholastic Esports Federation, where if you're part of the esports EDU community, you know that they are in a rebrand because they have brought in, not only great states like affiliates like Garden State Esports in New Jersey, but NASEF has kind of gone worldwide. They brought in Mexico, they brought in the UK. And so in conjunction with them and some universities, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say yet, we are working on a certification process, which we're hoping to tie into the great work Ready Learner One is doing. So there's a lot of opportunities to that end coming soon.
Awesome. So Marvin is also in
Oh.
Jamaica. That was his question.
So gosh, Marvin, all of the stuff that we've been doing, especially with the Minecraft stuff, Eric put in the chat the Rube Goldberg projects we're doing, all international. We have other international programs. Our goal with esports, on a greater community is to be absolutely global. So yes, inclusive, global. You got it.
Yeah, Marvin, we'd be happy to play you.
Yep.
Hey, there you go.
Saturday, show match. We have a match scheduled later this year against a middle school from Saudi Arabia. So if you need somebody to play Marvin, Garden State Esports and my team in particular would be happy to play you. And that's the beauty of esports, is we play each other internationally, without having to leave our schools.
And isn't that so great, because it builds global connections and global awareness among our students. And that's such another critical skill that people wouldn't think is associated with gaming. And yet here we are building these partnerships and this awareness and opening collaboration and communication between kids globally.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite coaching techniques is the virtual handshake after an esports match, where we, Skype or call each other, and my kids get to connect with kids not only in our country or in our state, but we're going to get to talk to Mexico on Saturday and Saudi Arabia later this month, and we got Finland on tap. So Marvin, we'd be happy to play and then learn from your kids after the match as well.
Virtual handshake is in the book.
Yeah, love it. So go get the book and then you know more. That's awesome. Well, you all are just fantastic. This chat is blowing up. Like, I am missing comments. I know I'm missing comments, but I think Dave is catching most of them. So together we will go back and make sure we get most of give you some love. And these guys can't love on your comments at the moment because they're locked out because they're on the show. So we'll check those out after the show. But thank you for everyone who joined. It looks like we just have a huge crowd over here. Super excited about esports and what it can do for our students all over the world, not just in the US, but literally all over the world. Thank you for those that joined out of country today and who are learning about more, bringing this into your world. Be sure and check Amazon or wherever you buy your books locally, and check out this book. You definitely want to have it in hand. It sounds like it's going to be a great resource for all entry points of esports. So thank you, friends, for joining us. Chris, Steve, Justin, Christine, you guys are amazing. I'm so excited to welcome you all in the BBC family group hug. And we are super pumped up. Yay! Steve's a hugger. We are super pumped up to have this book in our line of books too, because I really haven't seen anything quite like this out there. And so I do think if it's something you're interested in, you should head over to Amazon. We'll also include the link up above in the notes. And it's over in the comments as well. Remember, all the comments enter you to win a free book of DVC Inc. Book of Choice. It could be this one if that's what you want. We will be sending that out to one lucky winner. So be sure and get your comments over in the comment section while I'm rambling really quick, if you haven't already. And thank you all for joining again. Is there any last words anybody wants to say?
I just want to thank everybody again that's here. I feel I'm excited.
Awesome.
Yeah, and thank you for having us. And if you're not part of the community, make sure you connect to the hashtag esportsedu, hashtag esports playbook, and let's keep the conversation going once we're done here, and let's get every school an esports team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love it. I think that's a great way to end the show. So thanks everyone for joining in. Happy book birthday to these amazing authors. Go get your esports book, and when you get it, take a selfie, tag us, tag each and every one of them, share your learning along the way. We love that. And one of the things I will pride the DVC brand for is our authors are very relatable, and they're constantly loving on these tweets or these posts that you're sharing out how you're learning from their work. We are not unreachable. So we're just a DM away if you need something. So thanks everyone for joining, and happy book birthday, friends.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thanks.